Hello everyone, and welcome to this extended track guide on the newly added Redbull Ring. Today we will not only be talking about track limits and braking points, but also about do's and don'ts, target lap times, pit entry and exit, overtaking opportunities, and Ferrari setups. The Redbull Ring is an easy track to learn, but hard to master due to the difficult track limits. It's also a great track for racing. We will be starting at the most important turn of the circuit, turn 1. It's a pretty difficult corner to get perfect, and it's super important to have a good exit, because after turn 1 there's a very long straight. When approaching this corner you can go all the way to the outside. The red and white curb are the track limits. Brake straight just before the line at the 100 meter sign, and after that turn in. This corner really benefits from a later turn in, so try that. On the inside there's a big yellow curb which should be avoided at all costs, as it will unsettle the car. In qualifying you can slightly graze it, but in the race I would take less risks here. On the exit of turn 1 it is really easy to go over track limits when you have just a little bit of over or understeer. So focus on getting stable through that corner and still be early on the gas. Now onto a very long straight, which is in theory also a corner. This straight is where most of the overtaking opportunities will occur, because after this you have a very big braking zone with a tight hairpin. At this straight I also like to lower my TC for turn 3. Before turn 3 there's a big braking zone again. Go all the way to the outside for maximum track usage and brake just before the line at the 100 meter sign. For this turn I'd like to do a later apex, as it is really hard to put the power down and not trigger the TC too much. I also like to avoid the inside curb, as it sometimes unsettles the car. On the exit try to accelerate in a straight line to not trigger the TC too much. You can use all of the track again, keeping 2 wheels on the red and white curb. For turn 4 I increased the TC again. Before turn 4 go all the way to the outside again, keeping 2 wheels on the red and white curb. And brake before the white line again, just before the 100 meter sign. You can brake a little bit towards the apex. Try to use the inside curb to pull you inside a little bit. For this corner it's really beneficial to be patient and tail brake deep into the corner. I like to use first gear in this corner, but some people do this corner in second gear. On the exit use all of the road again, but watch out to not touch the sand, as this will result in massive time loss. This bit is technically speaking turn 5. For turn 6 you want to be on the outside on the red and white curbing again. You need to brake just before the 50 meter mark. It is really important to load up the front axle a little bit, by turning a little bit before getting on the brakes. I also like to trail brake in this corner. I use second gear, but some people also like to use third gear. Mid corner you can use the inside curb to pull you in, but watch out getting too early on the power, while still on the curb, as this can unsettle the car. Try to get as early as you can on the power without going wide and touching the sand. You go on the brakes just after the outside curb ends. For turn 7 you want to load up the front axle again. So turn a little bit and then go on the brakes. If you think you will miss the apex, you can trail brake through the corner like I did. You actually want to be a little more on the inside than I am. You need to aim where the edge of the grass and curb meet. Be early on the gas, but don't run too wide on the exit, as there are yellow sausage curbs there, which can unsettle the car and lose you time or press you out. I try to avoid going over the raised curb at turn 8. For turn 9 you want to be on the outside again. 2 wheels on the red and white curb and brake at about 75 meters. I like to go a little bit deeper and trail brake through the corner. This way you can be later on the brakes. Try to hit the red and white curb, but don't go too much over the grey bit, as this will unsettle the car. On the exit, watch out for going too early on the gas. You can go over the raised curb, keeping two wheels on the red and white curb. But it is really important to go back on the raised curb before turn 10. If you don't do this, the car will bottom out and you will not make the corner. Turn 10 comes really fast after turn 9. You want to brake before the curb ends on the left and turn in. I like to trail brake till I hit the dip of the apex. You can cut a little bit of the inside curb, but watch out to not overdo it. Get on the gas when you are in the dip and focus on getting a good exit out of the last turn. You can go over the raised curb, but your car can bottom out there and push you wide. It's a little bit hit or miss. In a race I would try to not go over the raised curb. And we go over the line with a 1:27.6. When you are just starting out in sim racing, you should aim for a 1:34. Someone who does lower tier LFM or league racing should aim for around 1:30.5. Someone who does higher tier LFM or league racing should aim for around 1:28.5. And the absolute aliens drive around 1:27. For the pit exit, it's really important to get a good run for the long straight ahead. Try to brake about here, and you can already be on the gas in the corner. Some leagues have the rule that you can't cross the pit entry line. On this track at the 100 meter sign you want to turn in, and brake at about 50 meters. You need to take a slightly narrower turn. And brake here a little bit before the corner. You can take the grass on the exit, because it isn't actually grass. And you want to brake where the road is straight again. In some leagues it isn't necessary to follow the white line. You take the corner as normal, but trail brake way deeper into the corner. So you can take the pit entry like this. It has about the same braking point, but you take a slightly wider entry. If you really want to be crazy, you can take the corner like this, and the game won't give a warning for it, but it will be frowned upon and probably reported by your fellow racers. A tricky but doable overtaking opportunity is at turn 1. I would only try to overtake here when the person in front makes a mistake at the last turn, as it is sometimes better to wait for turn 3. One of the main overtaking opportunities is turn 3 after the long straight. This is a great place to overtake because you have a very big braking zone with a tight hairpin. Even if you couldn't overtake at turn 3, you can always have a second chance at turn 4. First one is my own setup, and this is a so-called meta setup. So it uses a couple of tricks which are used in esports setups. It is a really stable and neutral setup. If the setup feels a little bit too oversteery, you can try to use TC4 for the hairpin and TC6 for the rest of the lap. The second one I recommend is one from Friedolf. This is a more conventional setup, but it's very fast nonetheless. He uses TC3 throughout his whole lap. The third setup is one from Bernard K1. This one is also a meta setup, but is a little bit more tricky as it is more oversteery than mine. This way it has really good rotation in the slow corners, and is a good setup to use for the experienced sim racer. All these setups will be linked in the description of this video. Well, this was it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And last but not least, a full replay of the hot lap.